Among the frost-bitten ruins of Viking settlements and the blood-soaked pages of forgotten sagas, one name keeps resurfacing like a ghost from another era: Bjorn the Undying. Not a king, not a god, but a warrior draped in myth, whose shadow stretches across 1,000 years of war. Chronicles from monasteries burned by Norse raiders speak of him. Eyewitnesses in the 30 Years' War swore they saw a man in ancient armor wielding a Viking axe. And even stranger, modern historians in the 20th century found battlefield photos where his face seemed to appear again, unaged, unreadable. The stories shouldn't align, but they do. Could one man truly outlive time? Or are we chasing a pattern stitched into our collective memory, a loop of violence that refuses to fade? This isn't just folklore, it's a trail of cold evidence, unsettling coincidence, and whispers too consistent to ignore. Tonight, we follow it. The earliest known record of a figure resembling Björn appears in the Íslendingabók, a medieval Icelandic chronicle dating to the 12th century. It speaks of a man called Björn Ragnvaldsson, a berserker who refused death in every known form, struck through the chest with a Frankish spear. He rose again. Left to starve during the winter siege of Jorvik, he emerged in spring skin pale but untouched. Later sagas depict him as a wanderer, exiled for unknown sins, cursed to roam without end. Some versions say he was gifted by Odin himself, tasked to observe mankind's wars until Ragnarok. Others hint at a darker price, that his life was tethered to death itself, feeding on violence to sustain his body. What makes the story more than myth is the consistency across centuries and borders. A Norse skald in 1238 recounts a tale of a man named Björn, who fights like thunder yet fears no blade. In 1411, a Danish noblewoman recorded a personal account of a bloodied Viking warrior who appeared in her courtyard during a peasant revolt, eyes glowing like coals beneath ice. And most hauntingly, a 1612 letter from a Swedish general mentions a man wielding an axe of ancient steel, impervious to bullets, who turned the tide at the Battle of Kalmar. He disappeared before anyone could question him. These aren't simply stories told over mead, these are first-hand reports scattered over 6 centuries from people who had no reason to lie, indeed, and no possible connection. Whether warrior, curse, or something stranger, Björn's saga is stitched into history with eerie precision. Are we witnessing a supernatural continuity, or is something being deliberately kept hidden? Most legends fade as the world modernizes, but Björn's trail didn't end in the medieval past. In fact, some of the most chilling accounts come from the industrial era, a time when myth was supposed to die. In 1864, during the Second Schleswig War, Danish soldiers reported a monstrous bearded man charging through gunfire at Dibble. His coat was torn, face marked by old scars, and he wielded a double-headed axe, out of place among rifles and bayonets. One soldier wrote that the man took 4 bullets and didn't fall. He simply walked back into the smoke. Less than 30 years later, in 1892, a fire broke out in a textile factory in Manchester. Survivors claimed they were led out by a man in Viking armor, barefoot, with a thick Norse accent speaking broken English. When authorities questioned the workers, none of them could agree on his face. It was as if he changed each time we looked at him, one woman said. The most documented sighting of the modern era, however, came during the winter of 1916, on the frozen fields of Verdun in World War I. French soldiers reported seeing a towering figure appear from the mist, not wearing any uniform but a fur cloak and iron helmet. He was seen dragging wounded men to safety before vanishing into the smoke. Several letters from the trenches describe him as a ghost who bleeds. British intelligence dismissed the reports as hysteria, but the bodies of those rescued bore no footprints near them. No explanation, just blood and silence. If this was Björn, his legend didn't just survive, it evolved. He no longer haunted only sagas or rural villages. He was now woven into the bloodiest pages of modern history, and every time the world burned, he was seen. Always alone, always unchanged. The Second World War brought horrors of its own, yet even amid tanks and air raids, the myth of Bjorn the Undying adapted once again. In 1943, a Soviet reconnaissance unit deep in the Carpathian Mountains claimed they were aided by a mysterious figure who spoke no Russian but knew the terrain better than our maps. He appeared from a cave system during a blizzard, dragging ammunition crates like they weighed nothing. He never spoke more than a few words, just nodded grimly. When the blizzard cleared, he was gone, leaving behind deep boot prints and runes carved into the frozen bark of nearby trees. During the height of the Cold War, reports turned stranger and eerier. In East Berlin, 1961, shortly after the construction of the wall, Stasi agents intercepted a bizarre radio transmission repeating a single phrase in Old Norse, a dead language. Cryptographers were baffled. 3 nights later, 2 guards reported seeing a figure pacing outside the wall barefoot, mumbling in what they described as a song made of thunder. Security tapes malfunctioned during the event. The guards were later reassigned and barred from speaking to the press. In Greenland, 1977, an American NORAD team detected anomalous heat signatures in an uninhabited ice valley. A drone sent to investigate captured a few seconds of footage, blurry, distorted, of what looked like a human figure walking shirtless through -40 temperatures, carrying a burning torch. The footage was classified, but one technician leaked a still frame showing what appeared to be a bearded face with one eye clouded, the other burning white. What was once legend was now haunting technology. Cold War paranoia met Norse myth in an uncanny blend of espionage and folklore. Was this man a ghost? A time traveler? A government experiment? Or was the world, and at its most tense, simply projecting its fear into the shape of a Viking? In the 1980s, historians and conspiracy theorists alike turned their attention to dusty archives and obscure footage. At a university in Oslo, a grad student discovered an old film reel, mislabeled as forest fauna. When played, it revealed a man walking through a birch forest, clothed in furs and armor. The reel was dated 1937. Experts tried to dismiss it as an early film project, yet the armor matched Viking-era metallurgy, and the man's gait, posture, and features resembled sketches from the 18th century. There were no records of such a film being shot. Meanwhile, amateur researchers began cross-referencing old photographs. In a 1912 newspaper photo from a fishing village in Iceland, a man resembling Björn is seen standing in the crowd. Same height, same heavy brow, same weathered expression. He appears again in a 1975 tourism brochure for northern Norway, smiling beside a reindeer, wearing clothes far too warm for summer. Then came the digital age. In 2002, a German tourist shared a video of his hike in northern Sweden. He was documenting the northern lights when, for a brief moment, a silhouette passed behind him. Tall, wide-shouldered, cloaked. Some enhanced the footage and claimed they saw an axe strapped across the back. Others argued it was just a trick of the light. But the legend began trending on early internet forums, Reddit, 4chan, and obscure paranormal blogs. Stock footage of archives, old newspapers, grainy black and white videos, forest landscapes, and flickering film reels helped cement the myth into the 21st century. And with every new sighting, the mystery only deepened. Was this just a cleverly sustained urban legend? Or was someone, or something, ensuring that Björn's presence never fully disappeared? And then, nothing. No new sightings, no blurry photos, no cryptic mentions in forgotten diaries, as if the trail had finally grown cold. But those who truly believe in the myth of Björn say that's exactly how it should be. Not every legend ends with a final chapter. Some simply fade into the fog of time, not dead, not buried, but waiting. The story of Bjorn the Undying is not just about a man who refused to die. It's about memory, collective, fractured, sometimes manufactured. It's about how we cope with the unknowable by assigning it a face, a name, a myth. And perhaps, just perhaps, it's about the fear that maybe time doesn't forget. It just hides things long enough for us to start asking the wrong questions. Because if even part of it is true, if somewhere out in the Arctic wind he still walks, then the world is far stranger than we think. Not everything ancient lies beneath the ground. Some things walk beside us, wearing time like a second skin, silent, watchful, waiting for the next storm to rise. And maybe that's the real horror, that he's still out there, not in shadow, but in plain sight, passing by unnoticed, watching as centuries change and faces blur. Maybe the Undying don't roar, they linger. And when the next great storm comes, we won't see him return, because he never left.